Right, so as you know, or regular viewers of my channel will certainly know, there's a special place in my heart for exposing hypocrisy. I do enjoy doing it, because so often those bleating about a given issue are hardly the best arbiters to be doing so. And thus, we come to David Baddiel and his apparent one-man crusade against antisemitism and for Jewish rights. But often he does this all without one iota of self-awareness himself. Now, for many of us who have come from the Labour left, Baddiel is yet another figure who jumped on the Get Jeremy Corbyn bandwagon, isn't he? Fully opposed to him, fully supportive, it seemed, of all of the allegations made against him and his administration and the accusations of anti-Semitism aimed at them. He was arguably a bit more nuanced about it. He wasn't quite on the nose, positioning himself in terms of Corbyn having a lack of self-awareness himself on the issue of not being competent enough to root it out. Though, of course, as we've come to know since the Forde Report came out and since the EHRC report came out, we know the issue does exist, because obviously it does. It's a societal ill. It exists in all societal bodies to one extent or another, though it was never found to be worse there than elsewhere. And Corbyn had actually gone a long way to dealing with said issues, so it was found, many of which had been swept under the carpet by the previous right-wing administration, leaving a backlog of complaints to be dealt with by Corbyn's. Starmer put the General Secretary responsible for that carpet sweeping into the House of Lords, of course. Rewards for services rendered, presumably. But aside from Corbyn, though, Baddiel has weighed in elsewhere, though his weight is a little on the light side, shall we say. In his latest example of his own lack of self-awareness, he's attacked the film Oppenheimer, which has just come out, for casting Irish actor Cillian Murphy in the lead role of J. Robert Oppenheimer instead of a Jewish actor, because Oppenheimer himself was Jewish. Baddiel feels this is, in his opinion, his overblown opinion, another example of the erasure of Jews, and therefore must be anti-Semitic, and anti-Semitic goings-on beneath the surface of storytelling, as he put it. Well, I saw this headline and I thought to myself, my God, what is this fool banging on about now? I wonder how many successful Jewish actors and actresses there actually are that would undermine this accusation that he's dreamt up that they're being erased. Natalie Portman, Gadot, Scarlett Johansson, Jake and Maggie Gyllenhaal, Dustin Hoffman, Mel Brooks, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Adam Sandler, Ben Stiller, Seth Rogen, Paul Rudd. The list actually goes on and on and on. There's loads of them when you actually get into it and have a look. Cancel culture is probably a little bit of a stretch there for Dave on the basis of religion, but according to Baddiel, Oppenheimer proves it. And he wasn't finished there, because he decided to accuse J. Robert Oppenheimer himself of liking to pretend he wasn't Jewish as well. Now, Oppenheimer, for those who don't know, was the scientist who invented the atomic bomb as part of the Manhattan Project, later dropped on the Japanese cities of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. His name became synonymous with mushroom clouds and mass death, therefore. That is what he's sadly remembered for, not the fact he was Jewish. Those who point to Oppenheimer's Jewishness, referring to him as a German Jew, are basically ignorant of the man's upbringing, because he was born in Manhattan to German Jewish immigrant parents in 1904, so well before either world wars, and the horrors Jewish people faced in Europe. His parents simply weren't devout. They didn't attend synagogue. They became involved in what was called the Ethical Culture Society, which was an offshoot of Reform Judaism, where religious creed was largely rejected in favour of humanism and rationalism. Now, I'm C of E. I don't go to church, though. I don't see why I have to call myself a Christian. I have other things to do. I think there's other ways I can keep my faith. And that was largely, I think, how Oppenheimer's relationship with Judaism could be described as well. Not good enough for David Baddiel, though. He didn't like to pretend he wasn't Jewish. He just kept his faith in a different way. But of course, when you think of David Baddiel and you see him spouting off about someone portraying somebody from an ethnic, cultural or religious background they don't belong to, everybody remembers Baddiel himself blacking up, putting a pineapple on his head, and thinking it's funny to call this mess of a performance an impression of then footballer Jason Lee. It doesn't seem to matter how many times Baddiel is reminded of his own gross pretense of being something he's not. It's especially notable that it took decades for him to apologise to Lee for that, and even that came across, I thought, as ingracious as it possibly could be. As if suddenly absolved, Baddiel was now able to carry on judging others. Of course, others are very much judging Baddiel right now. Aside from bringing up Jason Lee, others on social media have been far more entertaining and inventive in pouring scorn on him and his little story here. Does Baddiel know that the actress in the new Barbie film isn't a real doll, for example? That one tickled me a little bit. In David Baddiel's own film, The Infidel, where a Muslim man discovers he is in fact Jewish, the actor in the main role, Omid Jalili, is in fact neither. Gal Gadot, mentioned earlier, Israeli Jew, is to play Cleopatra. Go spit rivets on that one, Dave. A Jew playing a non-Jew. How deep is your hypocrisy there, then? Imagine when Baddiel actually discovers actors pretend to be something they really aren't. I think the concept of being an actor might just blow his mind. The best takedown I saw was from Jewish children's author Michael Rosen, though. And he said, okay, some serious points about the Baddiel Oppenheimer argument. The words Jew or Jewish cover a wide variety of traditions. To say Oppenheimer should be played by a Jew invites the question, in my mind, played by what kind of Jew? Oppenheimer's parents came from Germany. They weren't religious. Oppenheimer was born in New York. If one were typecasting, he was a different type culturally from the poor Yiddish-speaking Polish Jews of Lower East Side or London's East End, and different again from the many traditions, e.g. Sephardi, Mizrahi, and many others I haven't mentioned. To ask for Oppenheimer to be played by a Jewish actor opens up the question of these cultural and religious differences. This then raises the question of what difference, how much, or how little difference, which in turn makes one ask, are these differences more or less between Jewish cultural groups than between Jews and non-Jews? So in the specifics, as casting directors, we have to ask, is a secular Jew from New York, born in 1904, more or less like an Irish actor born in 1976, or more or less like any Jewish actor you or anyone else would like to name, bearing in mind that this is the 21st century? I'm a casting director. The name Andrew Garfield comes up. He has a Jewish-American dad, non-Jewish English mum, secular family, near fit then. But I might say of Eastern European origins, not German, so do I say no good for the job? Or good for the job? Meanwhile, as the actors' strike is telling us, it can't be long before we could go to a movie about a long-dead guy like Oppenheimer, and AI has reconstructed him from photos and film of the time, and we have Oppenheimer playing Oppenheimer. Now, that's what I call a proper comment on the issue from the Jewish perspective. More Michael Rosens, please, fewer David Baddiels, and we might get somewhere with the weaponization of the issue of anti-Jewishness, or how much Jewishness is proper Jewishness, and which Jewishness is the right sort of Jewishness, as Michael Rosen alluded to there. Confront and deal with the real issue honestly and properly, and not keep dragging it up for clicks and likes. The film Oppenheimer is doing rather well, as it should. A great cast, a great lead actor, very much up to the role, and who actually has a passing resemblance to J. Robert Oppenheimer himself, which, from a pretending to be him perspective, is surely more important in his portrayal than any religious connection. Baddiel is less comedy, more the butt of the joke once again, and again, it's entirely self-inflicted. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you did. More content out daily. Meanwhile, here's another video recommendation you might like, where cancel culture over the weaponization of anti-Semitism very much came about at Glastonbury this year as the Jeremy Corbyn film, The Big Lie, got cancelled, despite it having no anti-Semitic content at all. It's simply about how Corbyn went from great heights in 2017 to being taken down in 2019, and what happened that led to that. But sure, make that about anti-Jewishness too, as some will, and, well, have a watch of it. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.